This may be the most practical and practice-oriented seminar ASTPS has ever offered. The speakers include renowned practitioners like Bob McKenzie and others who work in the industry full-time, a high-level IRS executive, a former Assistant U.S. Attorney General for Taxation, recently retired, plus a cash flow expert you may wish to partner with. The 2017 Spring Conference can't be beat for bringing you the best speakers and the most on-point and unique tax problem resolution only topics you cannot get anywhere else. Good morning, and I'm glad to have you joining me for a couple of minutes just to discuss with you the upcoming Spring Conference of ASTPS. The first thing I want to do is mention to you that we're doing it at the Riverwalk, Marriott Riverwalk, that is in San Antonio, Texas. It's a gorgeous hotel with very nice rooms, nice meeting rooms and everything else. I'm sure you'll enjoy being there. Also, while you're there, you probably ought to visit and make sure you visit the Alamo. There's a number of different attractions in the San Antonio area, but probably the best known one of the bunch is the Alamo itself. So you'll not only be able to see the Riverwalk, which you saw in that opening slide, and you'll see several more pictures of it coming up, but you'll have the opportunity to spend a little time in a very pleasant area. If you've never been to San Antonio, I'm sure you'll like it. We've been there a number of times, and that's one of the reasons why we're going back and trying to give you the opportunity to enjoy that area. So first of all, let me tell you about some of the topics that you're going to have for this particular conference. We're going to have, our kickoff speaker is going to be Mike Villa. Mike is an attorney in Texas, and he is a specialist in tax problem resolution topics. And you want to arrive on time because he's going to be our starting speaker. And if you miss any of Mike's topics, you will have missed some of the really nice material that you could be getting in this seminar. He's going to talk about how to defend the IRS penalty assessments, and he's going to talk about particularly the accuracy-related penalty, the trust fund recovery penalty, and the fraud penalties. So these are things that you deal with commonly. We know you can't cover all the penalties because there's thousands of them, but Michael's going to hit some of the most important ones and how to defend them. He's also going to, he's, by the way, got a three-part presentation. He's also going to talk about the types of IRS specialized agents and how to deal with them. Those are the ones that focus on fraud and abuse transactions, things of that nature. He's also going to talk about how a practitioner might educate himself with the nuances of working with these particular special agents prior to having the meetings with them so that you're ready to do the right thing for yourself and your client. And his third topic he's going to talk about is defending the professional in an OPR type case. And you know, no one wants to be in the sights of the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, but if for some reason you did have to deal with them, you certainly would want to know how the system works and the best way to protect yourself. So Mike's topics are really going to be on point, very practice oriented, and things that you want to make sure you don't miss. Let's move on from Michael to talking about the next topic is going to be Jeffrey Long. Jeff is an EA, and he's going to be talking about revenue officer management for better client resolutions. And he's got the right background for doing this because Jeff actually was a desk auditor and then became an RO in the field. So he's got experience in both of those areas, and he's going to, he's been very aggressive in how he advocates for his clients, and he wants you to do the same thing, and he's willing to pass the information on to you as to how to go about doing these things. So with his background, he said he used to hate every day at the IRS, but he took the opportunity to learn how the IRS ticks and how to work with them and see how they work on the inside so that when he went out into practice, he'd know the best way to handle his clients. And you don't have to invest that time. You can just come and listen to Jeff, and he's going to give you those insights. So you're going to learn about the revenue officer's true motivations. You're going to get Jeff's first call checklist to get the RO under control and keep him there. And Jeff's also going to reveal some little-known tricks and things that the revenue officers from the IRS will set you up with and how to avoid getting trapped into those. So he's going to give you some really good insights, very practical approach to things. Our next speaker after Jeff is going to be John DeLucci, and John's going to be discussing a topic called Getting the IRS to Think Again. You know that very often the IRS comes up with an assessment for a taxpayer and it's not right. You don't agree with it. Well, you have different opportunities as to how to go about getting them to rethink their position. Some of those opportunities, though, carry different conditions with them and different situations where you want to make sure that you're picking the right one for your client. So, unless you're doing an offer and compromise based on doubt as to collectability. In that case, it's pretty straightforward, and these issues might not matter. But not every case is a doubt as to collectability type offer. So when you want to do a reevaluation of the dollar amount due, you have the obligation to your client if in fact you're not going to be settling for a portion of what they owe, but you're going to be trying to work out a payment plan or something of that sort. You want to make sure that you meet your obligation of having the lowest dollar amount for this taxpayer. And the way you can do that is through audit reconsideration. You might do it with an offering compromise based on doubt as to liability, and you might also just do a formal claim like using an 843 form, something of that nature, to make a claim against the IRS so that you establish the taxpayer's right to a lower dollar amount. So each one of these things has advantages and disadvantages, which John is going to talk about. The taxpayer's circumstances are what's going to dictate which one you're going to use. And he's going to give you some actual case scenarios and the reasoning behind the selection of one tool over another. So it's going to be a pretty interesting and, again, very practical approach to things. The stuff you do all day long and which is the best topic to use. Now, after that, we're going to go to talk to John Neiman, and that's going to be on day 2. And John Neiman's going to talk to you about knowing your worth and demanding it. Anyone who knows John understands that he's passionate about finding the right clients and charging the right fee. He doesn't want to work for free. He doesn't feel like he does this as a hobby, and I don't think any of us do, but he often earns up to $1,000 an hour on his cases, and it's because he handles these clients the proper way and bills them the proper way. So he believes that a lot of practitioners are leaving money on the table, and he's coming to San Antonio to help you cure that problem. And that way you'll stop earning less than what you're worth. He's also, if he's even correct in a small way, just think about what that could happen. Very often, a smallest tweak can take you from being good to great. So if you get 1 or 2 good ideas from John that you can take back and put into play in your office, you may find that you're in a really good position to improve your income. This one session alone could make it worthwhile being at the seminar. So next after him, we're going to talk about, we're going to have Bob McKenzie talking about his annual update. Bob has come many, many years for us and given us all of the different updates as to what's going on in the IRS. And just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, he's often referred to, and he's always referred to by me as the godfather of tax problem resolution, because Bob's handled some of the most interesting cases we come across. But one of the things that he's going to be doing is he's going to come over this whole list of update items, including the changing IRS, the new taxpayer advocate approach to things, enforcement, exam, appeals, collection, and offering compromise issues. He's going to talk about all of those in the update and let you know what's going on, and you can expect to hear of the new case that he and others have represented during the year that have come down that we should be interested in. And there's nothing better than a double dose of Bob, so we're also going to get a second session from Bob, and he's going to be talking about the IRS collection process. And in that collection process, he's going to cover IRS processing of notices of delinquent taxes due, IRS liens, seizure of assets, the types of levy notices, levy exemptions, seizure and sale, taxpayers' options, including how to prepare collection information statements, your 433A in other words, and the taxpayer assistance orders, as well as offering compromise. So there's a pretty long laundry list of things that Bob's going to do for us there and present to us, and we know that he has excellent insights with the number of cases he's handled and all of his years of experience. We're going to get another practical approach there. Moving on from that, we're going to have somebody who's new to the group, but not new to the area of understanding tax problem resolution, because Scott Dantuma has had to work in this area because he actually is a turnaround specialist and a cash flow expert. Scott has been in this industry for many, many years. He's had to help taxpayers get out of tax problems, but he also has determined that a taxpayer often ends up with tax problems because they've experienced cash flow issues. So bottom line of it is, he's going to come in and try and show us how to stop tax problem repeats. And this might be something that you want to even partner with Scott on, or just on your own, add it to your own practice, where you can actually stop the repeat of a tax problem, because all too often we've had those situations where the taxpayer comes to see us, we resolve their problem, we're very expert at doing that, we get them straightened out on their tax problem, and a couple years later they're back with a new tax problem. And of course, the second tax problem is harder to resolve than the first one because they don't have a great track record. Well, Scott's going to show you where you might have an opportunity to do more work for that client by helping them or assisting them with solving their cash flow problems. And that's what his topic's going to be. And again, I think that's going to be pretty practical for all of us. My next topic on here is Caroline Serrallo, who has just, by the way, recently retired. She was the acting assistant attorney general for the tax division of the U.S. Department of Justice. So Caroline was on the cutting edge of what the Department of Justice is doing in the area of taxation. Obviously, that affects everything in the Internal Revenue Service as well. She has got insights that no one else has had an opportunity to hear. This is something brand new for our group, where we're getting the people who have been at the top of the pecking order of learning about what's going on in tax and what's coming up next. So that's the reason we call it the crystal ball. She's actually foreseeing the future for you here. So we call it, crystal ball gazing with Caroline. But Caroline's going to give us some insights that are really, really going to be eye-opening for some of us. She's going to give you the coming attractions in audits, coming attractions in investigations, coming attractions in tax controversy, appeals, collections, and criminal investigation. She's also a very interesting speaker and a very nice person. I think you'll enjoy hearing from her. And as I said, she's the former acting assistant attorney general. She has just retired from that position and is now joining us in the area of taxpayer representation. So Caroline's going to become one of the practitioners, just like the rest of us, and she's got some excellent insights that we can all put to use. And we're going to wrap it all up with Darren Guillot, who is currently the Director of IRS Field Collection Operations. Put that into simple English. Darren is the boss of all the revenue officers out in the field. This is his job. He's in charge of revenue officers throughout the country. So we don't very often get the opportunity to talk to someone at this level who's in the IRS. This is his current position. He's still doing that. So if you deal with the IRS Collection Division and revenue officers, you can't afford to miss this section. This is your opportunity not only to meet him, but at the end of his presentation, you'll be able to ask questions and get answers from him. And it puts him in a position where he is going to be able to relate to us the IRS's current budget and staffing issues and what you can expect in the field. And he's going to focus on a lot of things like the priority areas that the revenue officers are supposed to be looking for in collection cases, the employment tax issues, and the heightened potential for criminal referral. And we've all heard a lot about that coming along, where the revenue officers are supposed to be looking for employment tax issues that might end up being pursued criminally. If you're aware of those things, you might end up with some pretty hot cases. So you've got to be careful in that area, and you should be well educated in that area. He's going to talk about civil actions, trust fund penalty assertion, suits for injunctive release, that sort of thing, and early interaction and alerts. And then he'll also conclude with the impersonation concerns that people have, private debt collectors and that new initiative, and the enforcement of passport revocation on delinquent taxpayers. And of course, as I said, at the end, he's going to wrap you up with questions and answers. So I think that we've put together as practical an approach as we can for this year's seminar. I think that it's one that you cannot afford to miss. Even if you've been to the last couple of years' seminars and you think, maybe I'll skip this year, think again, because you're not going to get this kind of material anywhere else. There is no one putting together something like we've put together this year, with the high-level people from the Internal Revenue Service, the former acting assistant attorney general, and on top of guys like Bob McKenzie, and the rest of our speakers, who are all going to give you some valuable practical information. So please join us on June 8th, 9th, and 10th in San Antonio. Thanks, and I appreciate your attention.